Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith and welcome to my review of the new movie Detroit. This is the new movie that stars Algiers Smith, Anthony Mackie, and John Boyega, to name just a few actors of this wonderful cast. Set in the 1960s, this depicts the true story of race relations in the Motor City, and race relations were at an all-time low. There was rioting, there was looting, there was a lot of police brutality. The lines were drawn. This film shows the fact that the National Guard needed to be called in to help deal with the situation. The first act of this movie does a very good job in terms of setting up the landscape. It shows us the fact that the rioting is going on. It does a great job with the cinematography, with the set design, with the costumes. You feel like you're in that time in the 60s. And once the filmmakers have us comfortable in that moment, it switches over to the Algiers Hotel. Now, at the hotel, some pretty despicable incidents took place, and we have to live through all of it. Now, one of the aspects of film that I always say is that if an actor can evoke certain emotion out of you, whether it be really happy emotions, really sad emotions, or in this case for myself, really frustrating emotions, they're doing a really good job. And to that, I have to credit actor Will Poulter. Playing one of the police officers with, let's just say, questionable morals, he did a fantastic job in his performance. And I'll say that because he did a fantastic job getting me angry watching his performance. So kudos to him. A complete breakout from other performances that we have seen him in, like We're the Millers. Anyways, the performances in this film felt very authentic. They felt very real. It felt like we were in that time. Now, looking at this film, there were aspects of this movie that reminded me of Malcolm X. There were aspects of this movie that reminded me of Selma. There were aspects of this movie that got me frustrated like 12 Years a Slave. But this movie wasn't directed by Spike Lee, it wasn't directed by Ava DuVernay, and it certainly wasn't directed by Steve McQueen. No, to me the true star of this film wasn't anybody that we saw on the canvas, but the person running the show, which was Kathryn Bigelow. Yes, Kathryn Bigelow. The same director who won the Academy Award for Best Director for The Hurt Locker. The same woman who was behind Zero Dark 30. Now, in her previous film, she has explored war, but war overseas. Here she's exploring the war at home in Detroit. And I have to say, she blew this one out of the park. I was very impressed with her direction in the sense of, and forgive the expression, for lack of a better term, she didn't whitewash it. She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't water it down. She gave us a true depiction from her perspective of what happened during that time. Looking at this movie, I never would have thought this film was made by Kathryn Bigelow. Not because she wasn't capable of making a great movie. She's made several great movies. Just because it is very rare to come across a film that evokes this much emotion, that has to do primarily with injustices towards the black community, that isn't made by a Steve McQueen or a Tyler Perry or what have you. I think Kathryn Bigelow is going to get a special invitation to the NAACP Awards next year, and rightfully so. And also, I'm going to put it out right now that I think Kathryn Bigelow is also going to get nominated for an Oscar. There were so many interesting moving parts in this film, and she sewed them all together quite nicely. At just under 2.5 hours, for myself, this movie didn't feel long. My only real complaint with the movie is that the ending felt abrupt. Not criticizing how the movie ended, it just seemed to end very quickly. But I want this movie to be in the conversation for best films of the year, especially my list of best films of the year, and I give it an A-. This is not an easy movie to watch. It's not one of those movies that I'm going to run out and go back to seeing, in a couple of days. Not because it wasn't good, but because it was a little too heavy. And when it's a little too heavy and it makes you think, the director and the actors have done their job. So I congratulate all of them. I think it's a very, very strong piece of film and definitely one of the best that we've seen so far this year. Detroit gets an A- from me. If you have the chance to see this film, I would love to know what you think, so let me know. CFL_fan on Twitter, Facebook.com/WittyWhittier and WittyWhittier.com. Thank you so much for checking this out. My name is Keith, and I'll see you at the movies.